I am swinging from a 7-story window, throwing parties in a 10-by-7 cell. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help. Yeah, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'll try to use your body as a life raft, cause if there's room enough for one, there must be room enough for two. I'll sail the good ship you into the sunset, sipping on savory water till my liver turns blue. Sha-na-na, sha-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Is broadcast in the evening news. I will be relieved. La, la, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'm waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. La, 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 singing, hey, hey, alright, yeah, I wrote that one myself. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help. Fuck.
Yes, everybody, welcome to your Thursday night, and thank you oh so much for taking the time to spend your Thursday evenings with me. I don't know who else you would rather spend them with, but thank you for spending them with me. Thank you so much. You are truly the people who make Muddied Waters Media possible, and I am humbled every day by each and every one of you who tunes in every single week. Again, thank you all so much. This episode, first and foremost, is brought to you by the fantastic and wonderful, wonderful people at siestacava.com. If you have yet to try the Libertarian Kool-Aid or the hippie moonshine, as I have recently coined it, visit siestacava.com and pick up some of this tasty, wonderful beverage today that doesn't actually taste good. It is wonderful and delicious, and I highly recommend it to everybody. To them and to all of you, I say, Bula Vinaka. This episode is also brought to you by the man, the myth, the legend, personal injury attorney, Chris Reynolds, attorney at law. And while we do not have the Anchor Call-In moment on Tuesday, you can visit anchor.fm/muddiedwaters, and you can leave messages there that Spike and I will answer on Tuesdays. And that is going to be brought to you by personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, the smiling madman that will get you rich if you get personally injured in Florida. This episode is also brought to you by the Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus, the fastest growing waffle-based caucus in the Muddied verse. I believe that encompasses all universes in which the Muddied Waters Media can be heard, which I think is all of them. This episode is also brought to you by the most aptly named company to ever sponsor us, Mudwater. Mudwater is a coffee alternative that is made from masala chai, cacao, mushrooms, turmeric, sea salt, cinnamon, and that is it. If you are one of the many out there who are trying to make the switch from your morning coffee and are looking for something that tastes, not at all like feet, go to muddiedwatersmedia.com/mud and make your switch today. This episode is also brought to you by the Gravy King. This episode is brought to you by Jonathan Reels. He is not a real candidate yet, but you can change that. All you need to do is go to www.jonathan.cash and you can raise enough money to make Jonathan Reels a Reels candidate. So do your part and get Jonathan all of the money he needs to become a Reels candidate. This episode is brought to you by the Royal Green, which actually has absolutely nothing to do with weed, I think. I'm not sure. I haven't read it. Jack Casey tells me about it, and he thinks I would like it, but Jack Casey does not know what books I read. But in all seriousness, Jack Casey, he is in and out of jail a lot right now, and they are only giving him cash bond. So he needs all of the money that he can possibly get in order to constantly get bailed out of prison. Jail, because, you're not getting bailed out of prison. We all know that. So if everybody would go to www.theroyalgreen.com and purchase many copies of these books, Jack Casey can afford to get out of prison yet again. I hear they're good. Looking at the covers, I know I would probably never purchase them, but that's really neither here nor there with me. But you probably would. Look at those things. They were really well done. This episode is also brought to you by Cumberland Cannabis Company. Cumberland Cannabis, where you can get 200 milligrams of strawberry CBD gummies. And if that just doesn't sound like the perfect plane ride, I don't know what does. All you have to do is go to cumberlandcannabisco.com to begin your Cumberland Cannabis cacophony today. This episode is, of course, brought to you by Joe Solosky for Pennsylvania governor. He is the key to Pennsylvania's success. So if you live in the Pennsylvania region of the United States and you are thinking about voting in the next year's gubernatorial race, you should vote for Joe Solosky, because I hear keys to success are very important, and Joe Solosky is the man to do that. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in. Tonight's guest, I'm actually very excited to have on. Actually, I'm always excited to have him on. I'm just happy people want to talk to me because, I wasn't popular as a child. So I'm very excited to have my guest on. Ari wears a lot of different hats and is in a ton of different organizations. He is the Assistant Data Analytics Coordinator, Outreach Director for Outright Libertarians. Works on Anarchist Mutual Aid as an Anarchist Mutual Aid activist, and is the founder of the Transgender and Gender Non-Conforming Nonprofit, I'm going to guess company, but I could be wrong on that, and if so, I'm very sorry. We're going to find out in just a second. Please welcome with me, everybody, Ari Gabrek.
Hey, Matt. It's great to be on here.
Hey, I'm so happy to have you on. So you and I I think we became Facebook friends like 4 days ago, if that. And we kind of started getting to know each other over Clubhouse over the last couple of weeks.
Clubhouse is kind of patently amazing. I absolutely love it. As a medium for communication, I think it's one of the better ones out there right now.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree totally. I had never been on Clubhouse until a few weeks ago when I had a guest on who was pitching all of the benefits of Clubhouse, and she didn't even work for Clubhouse. And she was just like, no, let's talk about this more. And I said, okay, great. If that's what you want to talk about, I don't care. I'm just glad people are here. But she got me on it, and it honestly is one of the best ways to communicate with people. I don't know if you and I would have connected had it not been for Clubhouse. There are multiple people I have met through Clubhouse. It's so many opportunities for networking. And from what I have found, for the most part, there are the occasional, glitches. But the conversation has been, it's been cordial. At the minimum, cordial.
And the wonderful thing is, if it doesn't get cordial and there are things that you don't like, you can disassociate from it and not have to be in it.
Right, you can just leave quietly. It's a great button. Leave quietly. Facebook also has that. It's called closing it or moving to, or the back button or the home button. But people don't know that. If like on Facebook, it's like an airport. You have to announce you're leaving. And on Clubhouse, you just go, I'm tired of this. I'm done. And you just leave and you go away. And it's great.
Yes, it's the very loud, announcing, and slightly annoying airport.
Right. Yes. That you could get kicked out of it any minute for any reason.
Yes.
So, as you probably know, because I'm certain you've watched every episode of the Writer's Block, we usually like to start out by asking our guests. Well, my guests. I like to start out. It's not a we situation here. I like to start out by asking my guests how it is that they became libertarian. So, tell me about your journey into this party that believes in freedom and liberty.
So it actually started in 2007. Prior to that, I was a log cabin Republican. And I was raised in my house. My mom was a Democrat. My dad was an independent. He had voted for Ross Perot and Ralph Nader. I was at that point a business owner, and I couldn't support the Democrats because where I lived at the time in Virginia, I was getting taxed out the wazoo.
Right.
If you don't know how a Commonwealth system works,
I grew up in Virginia.
Tax.
I grew up in Virginia, so I understand that one well.
So because I was angry over being taxed out of existence, I had no clue the Libertarian Party existed.
Yep.
I joined the Log Cabin Republicans because that just made sense. Because
Okay. Yeah.
economically, they just made more sense. And that was 2002. So I'd been a firm supporter of Bush's. I had been completely behind. I had been borderline like neoconservative, and it was one of my friends. They were a Black queer drag queen who lived in Baltimore that introduced me to the Libertarian Party. We used to go out shooting together, and
sorry to. If that's not a libertarian advertisement, an African American drag queen from Baltimore who likes going out shooting. And you know, I don't know a single person in the Libertarian Party that'd be like, no, I'm not going to do that. They'll be like, yeah, let's go out there. I want to do this. It's going to be so much fun. Like, there are people on the left and the right that would say no to that for multiple reasons, but the Libertarians, they'd all be like, let's round it up. Let's go.
Well, they started talking to me about a lot of different things. They ended up living through like the AIDS pandemic, the HIV/AIDS pandemic,
Of course.
and getting really pissed off at the FDA. But then also they ended up talking to me about how Republicans actually really didn't support GSM rights and didn't support basically anything. And it took me a little while to be able to change. But then, you know, Defensive Marriage Act and that pressing for more state exclusion of GSM individuals.
Right.
Don't Ask, Don't Tell was a big thing still. And it was all stuff that a Republican who said that they believed in individual liberties and freedoms and you know, state and local action ended up taking against the GSM community.
Well, both Don't Ask, Don't Tell and Defensive Marriage was Clinton.
Yes. But the doubling down, especially during that time, and the different issues that were kind of surrounding it, were primarily supported by like a ton of Republicans when I was talking to them about it.
Oh, right.
And
I will agree with that. A lot of Republicans did support it, like voter Republicans. Yes.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And I started getting really angry at that because, like I said, it was supposed to be individual liberties and freedoms, and local and state governments being able to choose what they wanted to do. Um, and then come the time of September the 11th, things like the Patriot Act and incursions into civil liberties and like this whole new surveillance state that popped up basically overnight after that happened was going like, nope, nope, I'm not gonna stand for this anymore. Um, I ended up in 2007 um, leaving the Log Cabin Republicans. And then in 2008, I voted my first time for a Libertarian candidate, which was Bob Barr.
That was the first time I voted for a Libertarian candidate as well. So you said a term in there a few different times that I want to kind of get into a little bit with you because as you and I found out the other day on Clubhouse when we were in a room together, a lot of people don't know what this term means, and I actually didn't know until about a week beforehand. GSM. GSM. You said the GSM community or GSM people, I believe. I don't remember the exact phrases you used, but GSM was what was the qualifier there. Can you explain what GSM is for anybody out there who is not familiar with that term yet?
Gender and sexual minorities. It's a more succinct and even more PC way of being able to say LGBTQIAA plus. It affirms all of the different identities. And if there's anything else that ends up being made, it doesn't negate their identity, but it's more inclusive because you're not having to add on more onto that acronym.
Right.
And it's truthfully just considerably easier to say.
It really is. Yeah. So I've been doing this show now for 4.5 years. Well, not the writer's block, but anything on Muddied Waters Media. I've been doing for 4.5 years. And when we started, it was, you had to say LGBT and then LGBTQ and then and then I always learn them all because I know it's LGBTQ AAIP plus. But cause I never wanted to be called, I didn't want to be considered non-inclusive of anybody. And when I first heard GSM, I didn't know what it meant. And when I found out, I said, why didn't we do this 3-4 years ago? Because this makes so much sense. Like, it includes everybody in this one term. And I love brevity as well.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of brevity. It's a fantastic thing. But yeah, so the GSM community, which wonderful, I love it. It's the GSM. It's Pride Month, right? Right? Yeah. Okay. We didn't change our logo, so there would be no way for me to tell. You are located in New Orleans, correct? Louisiana?
Yes, I am.
Yes. Do you guys have a lot of stuff going on for? Do you guys have a lot of stuff going on for that right now, or has COVID still kind of cast its shadow?
We are opening back up again finally.
Oh, good.
A lot of our festivals are restarting, thankfully.
Good.
Voodoo, Buku are on. We have, I think, 5 or 6 major festivals that are reopening. Most of the bars are reopened now, and they're really not enforcing the masking mandates too much. The majority of the bars that I go into are like, just be responsible. And if you're sick, don't come in. If you haven't gotten vaccinated, because they are a private, business, they'll have the ability to say, if you're coughing or doing any of that sort of stuff or generally not looking okay, they have the right to be able to ask a person to leave. But for the most part, yeah, it's not been. I've been hitting the gay bars, but yeah, the majority of them are back and open, and the French Quarter is up and roaring again, and there's so much to do and see now, and the economy is finally starting to come out from its, this horrid tepidness.
Right. Yes, that is a good way to put it. A horrid tepidness. The that is a fantastic way to put it. We've been stuck at like lukewarm room temperature for way too long, and there is not much in this world that's good room temperature. So you, so one of the things that you've been working on a lot, especially with Outright Libertarian and the Anarchist Mutual Aid, as an Anarchist Mutual Aid activist, is GSM Mutual Aid. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what your vision for that is?
So last year, my community really stepped up, and there were several non and not-for-profits that popped up, primarily through the GSM community. And the wonderful things that they've been able to do is connect people with goods and services. One of them, called Imagine Waterworks, was able to open a mutual aid group on Facebook. And their prior work was primarily also mutual aid based. They had things like the Queer Guide to Hurricane Season, because here in New Orleans, our community is dispersed throughout a whole bunch of different areas.
Right.
And not everybody has the opportunities to be able to go and safely be outside of a hurricane zone, as witnessed by the last hurricane that just hit us, last year. And they started a mutual aid group, and my group and several others ended up springing from it. I ended up starting and running a non-for-profit called the Trans Resource Network of Louisiana. And this was in the middle of the pandemic. When everything was closing down, all of the shelters were packed full because they had to only be at a quarter capacity.
Okay.
And it was people who ended up helping other people who were in bad situations. And it wasn't just myself. The work of Imagine Mutual Aid and other mutual aid groups put forward the need for the resilience of the TGNC as well as the GSM community. And it was people and allies and community members helping one another get things like food, or going out to neighborhoods and picking citruses and fruits and bringing it to people's houses, or giving rides to people to doctor's appointments, or even literally giving people like clothing and stuff, when houses got flooded.
Right.
And this was all just mutually aid based.
Right. All for free, out of the goodness of the heart, mutual aidism or voluntarism or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
And honestly, that's the dream, where people are literally helping each other out without being forced under, threat of imprisonment or death by the government to do it. And it's fantastic when you see communities reach out and do these things for each other. So is that when you started the TGNC, or was that when?
Yeah, the TR NOLA.
Okay, TR NOLA. That one wasn't in my notes. I apologize. That one wasn't in my notes.
TR NOLA the governance is completely flat.
Okay.
We work off of more of an anarchistic principle.
Okay.
There's not much of a hierarchy. We agree on things mutually, and if we don't, then we move on to something else. but how we structure this specifically is that the groups that we have formed are all mutual aid based. We got together through Imagine Mutual Aid because my co-founder ended up wanting help on writing a business plan. And I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've written lots of business plans. And yeah, we started to be able to talk, and then things snowballed. We started giving rides to people. We started getting people into safe housing. We got people clothing. Just this last weekend, we opened a clothing closet in Gray, Louisiana, that's open for the TGNC community. We're also working with two businesses, one based here in the United States and another one international, to have things like chest binders, gaff underwear, and there's another group that we're working for safe sex kits.
Oh, very cool.
So that people can not have to worry about stuff.
So, the TR NOLA, correct?
TR NOLA.
TR NOLA. Okay, yeah. TR NOLA is basically just starting up, is just putting together packages in order to help GSM members be able to get their safe sex kits or get information where they need it, or safe housing whenever necessary, and guides to hurricane, which hurricane season we're right at the beginning of. And I'm here in Florida, so I'm very well attuned to hurricane season and what is happening, well, on my coast anyway. And I hear about what's going on yours usually right before it happens. And honestly, these are all fantastic things that you don't really see a lot of in our community, like in any communities. You don't see people working together to do these things for free. You see some fake it is the best way that I can put that. You'll see like some religious organizations say, oh yeah, we're going to do this and this and this. And then they do like a menial job where it's just kind of like, yeah, okay, we have now followed through on what we said we were going to do. So seeing somebody go out there and start this up from the ground and continue to build it and follow through on the things that they are promising, that is heartwarming and inspiring. So, I honestly, I am humbled to be here with you.
Well, it all started because I needed a ride to a doctor's appointment for my chest surgery, because I didn't have a car, and yeah, it snowballed from there. We've been able to house now about 15 different people of trans experience. We've been able to give 75 rides over the last year to doctor's appointments, to grocery shopping. We've been able to have and give people the resources to go and get gender affirming care.
If I can ask a question, I don't know what that is.
Gender affirming care differs from person to person.
Okay.
Some people end up having things as simple as binders or gaffs. Others choose to be able to go and do the medical route, which is different medications. Like I take testosterone.
Okay.
Or trans women will take a combination of medications, Spiro and estrogen.
Okay.
To be able to get to the certain levels within what is considered traditionally cisgendered levels. But each individual is different as to how they want to be able to express it. But when I say gender affirming care, it's just a way of being able to get treatment that affirms one's gender.
Okay. Got you. All right. Yeah. You said the term and I went, oh God, I don't know what that is. And I don't want to just act like I do. So I appreciate you explaining that.
Of course.
There's been a couple of people in the comments already saying how can people get involved to help? Do you guys have websites for donations or anything like that? You're going to be able to pitch this at the end as well, just so you know.
We are fiscally sponsored through the LGBT Community Center of New Orleans.
Okay.
They can go to their website and then add a tagline onto there for us, stating that they're giving the donations for that. And then if they are in the greater New Orleans area, or if they just want to be able to volunteer, we are on Facebook as well as Instagram, the Trans Resource Network of Louisiana, and that one is TR Helps for Facebook, and TR Help at Instagram.
Having many social media accounts, I understand how you have to do that sometimes. And it's like, it's helps on Facebook, help on Instagram. So I am so curious about this because you said that so you are also, you have hang on a second. You have a bachelor's degree in microbiology and fine arts, and you are currently going for a degree in biomedical anthropology, and you are a data analytics guru, from what I understand.
Somewhat. The team that I'm on is patently amazing.
Okay.
So I love empiricism. My background, especially in microbiology, was the statistical wing of it. And I would do the data crunching.
Okay.
I would do a ton of the different stuff for research.
So you would do all the stuff I hate doing.
I love numbers. and numbers love me. I've been able to do some amazing work. Flow cytometry was one of it. The branch of it was the statistical arm of the study of cell lines, particularly after a study was finished. There would be one branch of it that would shoot a laser at tissue cells to break it up, and then I would take that and select the groups within a software called Flojo, and then I would run the statistical computation for it, and I would get the numbers that were necessary to be able to go and see what the statistically significant populations were within that specific study. The last one I worked at was Bayer, and ended up being with quality control, which is just whole tons of numbers. It's all numbers.
So I've got I'm not an intelligent person. I mean, I am. I understand, but I know where I'm intelligent, and science and math is not that. I know a little bit about MALDI imaging. Have you heard of this? Okay, cool. So now we have some sort of baseline. It sounds like what you were doing was kind of what MALDI imaging is. Okay, all right. So I was like, this sounds really familiar, and then I had to try to remember where that was from.
When you take a sample, like the one that I was on for the flow cytometry, they ended up doing the study for HIV, SIV. And so they would have to take samples from the kidney and liver and different soft tissue. And so that's what histology is that you prepare the slides, you look at the specific areas to be able to see where there's any diseased tissue or if there's anything that you can get from that specific tissue. It then gets sent to flow cytometry, which then, well, it shoots a blue laser at it, disperses all of the cells and creates an image. With that image, I'm the one who captured the image, selected the statistically significant population, and then crunched the numbers from that one to find out what the statistics were on that specific study.
And that's where the
yeah.
FlowJo machine comes in.
Yes.
Okay. You said FlowJo, and immediately I thought back to like the 1988 Olympics and FlowJo, and then I was like, oh no, that's probably not what you.
FlowJo is a software that's
right.
used within that sort of analysis, but that background lent in really well, especially for data analytics, because that's all numbers. It's a little bit more hand programming, but the team that I was with, we had some amazing people. Dave Schrader is hands down, I think, one of the most talented people for data analytics here in this party. And what he's been able to do and what the team that I'm on has been able to do is kind of amazing. And we've been able to really suss out information for a load of different things. I was on the team for the Joe Jorgenson campaign.
Right.
2 years ago, I started to really get back into libertarian politics. Because there's that joke of what's the difference between a libertarian and an anarchist?
About 6 months.
Mine was about 1.5 years, but yes.
Right. No, I get it. Like mine was a little bit longer. I really held on to the minarchy side of mine for quite some time because part of me just did not want to let go of that part of the state. And after a while, I thought, oh, this is stupid. They're the ones who tax me like randomly. They'll just be like, no, that's just going to happen now.
So when I got to it, I had just restarted to be able to get back into libertarian politics.
Right.
And I started out because my BFA is in printmaking and photography. And all I wanted to do was take really nice pictures for the Jorgenson campaign to be able to go and make memes out of. And my segment at that portion of time was something called a micro segment. And so my micro segment within data analytics was the GSM community. And that's what led me to get connected with Outright, because I was trying to be able to do voter propensity modeling, to help them do voter propensity modeling. And I started out at that basis. And then when the cord for last year for data analytics ended up leaving, Dave ended up asking me to be able to come in, to be able to go and take over, her spot on things. And, it was great. I got to be around some really fantastic, liberty-minded activists. And right now we have this amazing core team of libertarian individuals trying to be able to bring empiricism and really solid data analytics to the party, because we're at a loss. We're behind the two old parties, because they can pay a ton of money to be able to go and get access to data analytics firms. They have the ability to pay out those hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to be able to get access to the data. Right. And it's costly, but it's worth it.
Yeah, it is absolutely. It is costly and it's worth it. I was on a call the other day. This may have been yesterday. You may have been there as well. I'm not even 100% sure. But Brian was there. And Brian is this campaign. He's a campaign guru. Like that guy is fantastic at what he does, and he knows his stuff. And he was saying that the most important thing, no matter what no matter what office you're running for, you need to know this data or whatever you want to call it. I'm a data guy.
Yes.
You keep saying data, and I'm like, I feel so weird because I've just said data. But
That's an android.
right. But yeah, so like he knows all of his stuff. He's like, you need to know this stuff, and he was talking to a potential candidate for the next series of elections, I think next year, and he said, okay, so how many voters are in your district? And that person knew all of the data just rolled right off the tongue. It was, there are 10,000 people in my district, 64 point whatever percent or 70%, I don't know the numbers because I wasn't really listening, were voted for this person in the last 3 elections, run unopposed in this many, like just knew it all the way down. The percentages of men and women that were in the district, non-conforming in the district, like knew all of it, and just bam, 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 bam. And being able to take that data and be like, okay, this is where we need to focus. This is who we want to go to, knowing the different areas in which you want to focus your campaigning to and your messaging to. It's all very, very important. All very, very important. Thank you, Liberty Shamrocker, for your donation. You are fantastic, and both me and Spike, and I'm certain that Ari loves you as well. Connie, if you didn't know who that was. But yeah, being able to take that data and turning it into information that is helpful on a campaign is massive, and one of the reasons I have never been good at campaigning, because I see it as numbers, just random ones, like my bank account, just random numbers. I never know what it's going to be. So
The patterning is what is the most interesting portion of it, and how you can end up taking from things that you think are completely random and don't matter, and they actually do. Like, it does matter. That weird off little magazine that you ended up buying 5 years ago, or your subscription to Smithsonian, or even, your voting patterns.
Right.
Your voting patterns are so important. And you can suss out information from there to be able to figure out a propensity of that individual to vote for certain things.
Right.
And that's what Republicrats have been doing for decades now. They've been taking advantage of a system that gives them a head up, so that they know how to be able to target, specific voter regions, how to be able to do these micro segmentations, how to be able to go and smartly focus in on what a voter and what a area ends up actually believing in.
Right.
And that's what I think we decidedly very much need for the future of this party, is knowing how to be able to do messaging, having that empirical data behind it, and having experimentation within that data to show that these modelings are correct and true.
Right, and that is one of the things that the Libertarian Party, and I mean this with no disrespect, or I'm not making fun of them at all, but that's where they have fallen behind. And I understand that a lot of these things take money that they don't have, and that comes from donations, and that comes from people giving money to the party. And most of the people are like, well, right now the Democrats are running the train over the cliff at 700 miles an hour, and the Republicans are only doing it at 600. So I'm just going to keep putting my money there, so that way I don't have to, worry about it. And it'll stay mine a little bit longer, or whatever. I don't really know what the Koch brothers' logic was on that one, but that's what they said. But
I want to get a liberty activist in front of them to be able to talk why they need to give us a ton of money.
So I wrote an article back in 2016 for I don't remember for who, but I wrote it for somebody. And I was talking about how instead of giving money to the GOP, the Koch brothers, both of them were still alive at the time, but the Koch brothers should give their money to Gary Johnson's campaign and to the Libertarian Party. And I said, you said this, you know, like I went through a bunch of quotes where you admit that the Republican Party is running, you know, is on the same track, just mildly slower, economically anyway. And why would you continue funding for the eventual collapse? And they gave Gary Johnson like $5 billion. And I was like, I'm going to take credit for that. I'm saying that was me. In all fairness, it was probably Trump, but I'm saying it was me. Hey,
Yeah.
but
Well, I'm not going to go into my opinions on this previous administration, or else we'd be here all night long.
that's fair. That's fair. You know, that could be a whole separate show. But so you were working on the Jorgenson campaign, and because of your I forget what the term was that you called it, your micro section, your micro segment, your micro
Micro-segmentations.
segmentations. That was kind of how you started working with Outright Libertarian.
Yeah, I had reached out because I had wanted to be able to do some meme tests, and I'd reached out to Outright to be able to go and kind of run a few of them, just so that we can get an idea of what actually, what actually ended up working,
Right.
and how we were able to very smartly get ads or memes towards the GSM community.
Right.
And I ran at least a small analysis of what would be a statistically significant population, and I ran it a couple of times to be able to get enough of a body of people to run the statistics off of, or the analysis off of. And it's how I got connected to Outright, just because I ended up messaging them, and I had been following them for a while, but I had never really been super active. So in a roundabout way, I can thank me wanting to make a little bit of money off of photographing for the Joe Jorgensen campaign, for me now being as active as I am, and being the outreach director for Outright, because I probably would have not gotten connected with them if it wasn't for the George Jorgensen campaign. And what Spike also ended up saying about the transgender community.
People are going to be shocked when I say things like this, but I did not pay a lot of attention to Spike when he was on the campaign trail. Like, I'd heard him every week because we would talk. What did he say? What did he say about the transgender community while on the campaign?
So he had talked about Transgender Day of Remembrance.
Okay.
And it was a simple acknowledgement that the loss of trans lives was happening, and that the state was the one that was culpable, and that trans lives mattered. And he was literally the first candidate for office to be able to make a statement like that. Like, the Biden-Harris team had not said a squeak, and well, of course, Trump and them didn't say a thing as well. But they were. Spike had been incredibly supportive of the GSM community, and that kind of just sealed it for me that I had seen Spike with Vermin prior to this and had supported Furman, but then it was like, okay, I got fully, totally, and completely behind, Joe Jorgensen and Spike after that,
Right.
because their messaging was on point. They acknowledged it happening and didn't pander.
Also, yeah, also true. And that's one of the great things about being libertarian is we don't pander. Like you see that you see pandering from the left and from the right. The left is easier to point out examples than it is the right, because the right's like, yeah, we're going to cut your taxes, and then they say, oh, we tried, but then for whatever reason it didn't work. Even though they didn't really try, they put in some washed out
Tariffs.
Also, great point. But like with the left, we support BLM. Just look, man. Like we gotta do something about all this that's going on, because BLM, we gotta support them. And then it's been 100 days and you've had one meeting and you told them, oh, you're just gonna have to wait. I'm sorry, you're not gonna be able to meet. We're not gonna be able to do the things that we promised you. It's time to it's time to end the drug war, and that marijuana needs to be decriminalized. And no, not working on that at all. And on top of it, you're firing people who are working in the White House who have smoked weed in the past, unless, of course, they're the vice president. And you are not holding true to anything that you have promised. And it's just, you see the pandering from the left a lot. You see it from the right as well, but they're pandering to that rich base, and they're screwing the lower bases, but they don't make any promises to the middle class. They're like, yeah, we're going to cut your taxes, but then we're going to raise tariffs from 4% to 20%, and you're going to foot 94.6% of that bill. And if you don't believe those facts are true, you can look them up. Not you. I know you probably believe me. But they do things like that, and they screw people over in that way. Where the Libertarian Party, it's very simple for us. We're just like, okay, we want everybody to be free, and somebody in the audience is like, yeah, but what about and yet everybody, yeah, but what about, no, everybody, yeah, but what about, no, we want everybody to be free. If you aren't hurting anybody, and I hate using cliched terms like this, but yeah, if you aren't hurting anybody and you're not taking their stuff, I don't care what you do. If you are not hurting anybody and you're not taking their stuff and you're not harming their individual personal property, I don't care what you do. It does not affect me. Go out, have fun, do whatever you want to do. Just don't hurt me or any of my family or my stuff.
Oh yeah, no, I completely get that. I've had really good conversations with people. Some of them will listen fantastically and listen to the message of freedom. And this is the thing, is I firmly believe in the messaging of outright. From liberty springs equality. And Ashley Shade's message of compassion, education, and love. You have to come at people compassionately.
Yes.
I know that there are still people that make mistakes. I'm not going to get mad at them if they use the wrong gendered term for me. I'll correct them, and I'll continue to correct them, because I know that the majority of the time they're not doing it on purpose. And heck, I even mess up sometimes, and I'm trans myself, and there are some people's pronouns that I don't even get correct from time to time.
Right.
So if I'm gonna mess up every once in a while, I'm gonna give everybody else a pass. It's
I just have that is in my mind, that is a very logical way to think about that. But there are so many people that I know, there are a lot of people on the right that I know that just aren't going to give, for lack of a better word, shit. They're just not going to care, and they're just going to go, I'm just going to call you by what I think, or what I think you should be called. And then there are people on the left who they'll make the mistake Like they'll make the mistake and they will be very, apologetic. And, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that, which, cool. But if somebody else makes the mistake, they will just try to bury that person. And that's where you get that's the difference maker. Like you need to be able to understand that mistakes are made, and if the person is apologetic and is like, hey, yo, that's my bad, not you obviously, but the people on the left who aren't understanding this, mistakes are made, that's my bad, I will work on that in the future. That should be, if you are genuinely working on it in the future, that should be evidence that you are trying to do the right thing, as opposed to, nope, we want to end you. We want to, I hate using the rights cancel culture thing, but, we want to cancel you. We want you off Facebook. We're going to see if we can get you the 30-day ban and get you zucked for good or whatever.
Don't remind me. Don't remind me.
That eye roll was epic.
I was actually this close from getting my Facebook banned because I've in some circles I've been canceled because I don't toe the line or I don't, and I try to explain to people where I come from, and some people will listen and other people won't. Some of my friends are fantastic. I am friends with people who are diehard Marxists, others who are constitutionalist Republicans. And then there's me, who is the voluntarist mutualist anarchist. Who just wants everybody to love one another.
That is something that I've been that I have wondered about in the past. As a member of the GSM, are you just expected to be blue? Like, are you just supposed to be team blue?
Yeah, I mean, contemporarily, definitely.
Okay.
There's a ton of us that are, but then at least where I am, a good chunk of my community are very, very anarchist.
Okay.
Like they only get on with Democrats because they don't know some of the positioning that other parties end up having. And in particular, like when I started explaining things to people and some of the positionings that, the Libertarian Party ends up taking, it's like, oh, I had no clue. They didn't know that in 72, our official party platform ended up including marriage equality and the decriminalization of sodomy. They had no clue that we have had at the founding some GSM individuals at the founding of the party. They didn't have an idea that, there are very high profile GSM individuals within the party right now, even.
Yeah.
JBH, Ashley Shade, just to name, two of them. And this is just like the tip of the iceberg. The things that I've been able to talk about, especially to the GSM community, has been very important.
Right.
And the messaging that needs to go forward from that, especially like we've been touching on data analytics wise, needs to be very, very solid, because that empiricism is necessary, because we're combating against a party that's painting us as paleo conservatives, that we don't believe in GSM rights, that we don't support the GSM community, that we don't believe in so many different ways, and things of queer resiliency or individual freedoms. So yeah, that's kind of what we're up against, the belief that we don't want people to be people.
Right. And one of the things that I have noticed a lot in my however many years of being a libertarian is that a lot of people have really mixed viewpoints of what it is we believe in and what we stand for. And many of them, one of the ones that I always find kind of shocking is many of them believe that libertarians are inherently anti-gay. And I think that it is I think that stems because everybody sees us as Republicans who like to smoke pot. And it's like, no, that's not who we are at all. Since our party's founding, is it 50 years ago now?
50 years.
50 years. 50 years ago, we have had gay marriage on the plank. Like, that's something that we believe in. We want freedom for everybody. Gay people should be allowed to be married. And we've always, like, we have said that from the beginning. And nothing about that has changed. We just want equal rights for every single individual out there.
My candidate out here in New Orleans, in Louisiana, Aaron Sigler, highlighted that, now there's Louisiana is working on a plank to be able to include that stuff for state adoptions, and gender autonomy as well. There are several states LPs that I'm working with at this time that are going to be adopting the gender, potentially the gender autonomy planks, because I'll paraphrase this.
Okay.
And I love the quote that Neil Gorsuch ended up saying, and it's completely true. You first can't discriminate against a group without first discriminating against the individual. And so our belief is that the individual is the greatest minority.
Yes.
And so within that, the messaging for us has been and will continue to be consistent, that it is an individual's sole discretion and choice to be able to live their life how they need to. And it's not up to the state to dictate how an individual needs to live or how they want to, do anything with their body or what they want to be able to grow on their land or anything for that matter.
Nope. And whatever these things are, again, going back to the cliched terms, as long as you aren't, hurting anybody else or taking their stuff or, ruining their stuff, what you are doing isn't anybody else's business. And I don't care if that's your neighbors. I don't care if that is your city councils or state reps or whoever. It is none of their business if you are not breaking those 2 to 3 rules of don't hurt anybody, don't take their stuff, don't ruin their stuff, don't ruin other people's stuff. What anybody wants to do in the pursuit of their own happiness is fine. Again, as long as you're following those rules. And that, it is the easiest and simplest rules to live by. So I don't understand why everybody wants to go the opposite way with it on, well, no, we need to do this because, the people shouldn't be allowed to do heroin. No, people shouldn't do heroin. They should be allowed to do heroin. They shouldn't, but that is not on you to decide. People shouldn't be, man and man shouldn't lie together or whatever it says in that book. Man and man shouldn't lie together. Well, no, just because that was written 6,000 years ago or whatever, doesn't actually make that true in a time period in which they were trying to make sure that the survival of the human race was a thing. The same reason that some people won't eat pork still today, they were trying to make sure that the human race survived, and they knew that pork killed people. Same thing with shellfish. So maybe, since you've kind of given up on those rules, you should give up on the rest of them as well and stop sticking to them. But
that whole debate could be another whole show of the mistranslations, because yes.
Right.
But it's if we're going to be able to be and press for liberty, it's not just for one group, it's for everybody.
Yes.
It's we need to be able to make sure that for the future that I'm not going to say if we get into office, it's when we get into
When.
office, that we show people this path is the correct way to go, because individual freedoms is going to be the greatest thing in our time. It's going to, the whole line, the whole tag phrase of setting the world free in our lifetime, it's going to happen. It's just how we're going to implement it and how we're going to be able to message it. And it's places, and I'll do shameless self promotion of Outright. It's going to be places like Outright. It's going to be places like this. It's going to be people like Nalick and Cajun Libertarian that bring this positive, wonderful message.
Thank you for promoting another one of our shows.
Well, I might have known about that slightly. So, shout out to you two.
Yeah, shout out to Cajun and Eskimo.
Yeah, Cajun, from igloos to what? Igloos to bayous?
Igloos to igloos to bayous or bayous to igloos. I'm not really sure which order they're going in.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
I am so excited. For anybody who doesn't know, Cajun Libertarian and the Eskimo Libertarian are going to be starting a show on Sunday, June 14th, 13th, 14th, whatever that Sunday is, at 3 p.m. Eastern. And I believe that it is called Cajun and Eskimo from bayous to igloos, or from igloos to bayous. I'm just a fan of the alphabetical order because that's how my brain works, but whatever they decide, because it's their show. It's going to be airing on Muddied Waters Media, so make sure that you tune in for it. I am so excited about that show.
Oh, I might be in that said caucus. So
the seafood caucus.
But it's going to be that positive message and that inclusivity and that ability to have and talk with everybody that is going to change things, and that is going to be able to get this really great messaging out to people. And it's going to be those positive activists in the party that have this message of everybody needs to have freedom and everybody needs to be included in liberty.
Yes.
Not a narrow scope of liberty, but everyone.
Yep.
And our messaging going forward has been consistent, but it still needs those people who are going to be willing to give it that limelight.
So I've actually come up with a purity test for libertarians. Whether or not they're a real libertarian. I would get a line of people from all spectrums, like you're a straight white guy, GSM white, white female, black male, like just everybody in the spectrum, and then have a libertarian come up and I'd be like, do you think this person deserves every single individual liberty that the person next to them does? And if they say no to anybody, they're not a real libertarian.
That could be interesting. Right,
because eventually if somebody says, well, no, not that one, that's like, well, then you are grouping them by the group, and you are looking them not as the individual, and you are looking at them as the group, and you are not a real libertarian.
But that can still be a learning moment.
It can. That is. It's very much a learning moment.
It took me a little while to be able to change from being Republican to what I am now.
Fair.
And it took liberty activists talking to me and willing to be able to educate me on issues. And it took so many different people to get me to this point. So it's always interesting. Like the pro-science libertarian or the skeptical libertarian or outright, or even learning and seeing some of the different caucuses and what they end up believing in. each one of them has interesting points to be able to point out. And the ways that people can engage with individuals on a consistent basis within that positive libertarian messaging. And I've been in love with how different groups end up doing outreach and end up bringing more people into the party. Like, this was my proud point, was learning through the data analytics. In the past 3 years, our party has grown 5,000%. And that is dues paying members.
Oh, wow.
And that statistic for me has been amazing to see. And that was with very, very little effort. I think that if we put more effort into it, and we've been putting a ton, but if we can focus in on that good, positive messaging, yeah, let's talk about all of the different issues. Let's talk about, borders. Let's talk about welfare. Let's talk about GSM stuff. Let's talk about Black Lives Matters. Let's talk about, licensing, the bootstrap fees for stuff, the horrible ways that government restricts individual freedoms.
Yep.
All of these positive messages are going to be a necessity for this party to continue its growth. I look at the fact that we now have, and we're broaching on 300 people, elected people in public office who are libertarian.
Yes.
And that is on, starting on the local level. And whether you believe in starting small and going up or applying for everything, getting people into office is going to be the most important thing that you can end up doing. And it's those smaller races and larger races and getting all of that data that we need to do the numbers crunching, to show you where you did things right and show you where you did things wrong.
Absolutely. Well, Ari, we could keep talking all night long, but I know Eskimo has a show starting in like 10 minutes now, and I don't want to go over her show because she's fantastic. But real quick, where can people go to support? Where they can go to support you? Where they can go to support TR NOLA? Where they can go to support outright libertarians? Where they can go to support TG? And where can they go to support anything? Just pitch it all right now.
So my personal brand is iamartsci.com, and it's SCIE.com. That is my science and arts communications page.
ARTSCIE.
.com.
Okay. I'm putting it into the comments. I just want to make sure that I'm spelling it correctly while I do that.
And outright is outrightusa.com. And you can find us on all social media. We are actually fairly soon going to be opening our own clubhouse. I made a slight little mistake on the spelling, so I need to redo things. I'm human. It happens.
And we forgive each other our mistakes because that's who we are as people. And I get it. And I understand. For a while, Muddied Waters was spelled wrong.
And then for TR NOLA, it's the Trans Resource Network of Louisiana on both Facebook as well as Instagram.
Okay.
And to support us, you can go to the LGBT Community Center of New Orleans. Just put in the tagline, the support for that one. And we also have a roving GoFundMe on our Facebook page to be able to go and help with a variety of different mutually aid-based programs, rapid rehousing, transportation, as well as gender-affirming care as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, everything that you're doing is truly an inspiration to so many people that I know about. And I honestly am really happy to see how well all of it is going and how much you are getting done and accomplishing. And I hope to see it grow over the next, few weeks, months, years. And honestly, if there's anything that you need from me or Spike or anybody here at Muddied Waters, call Cajun, because he's there. But you can, we're always happy to help. And whatever you need while growing this, just let us know, because we want to help.
Thank you so much. You have a wonderful evening. And Nalek, I'm going to be coming and seeing you.
Yeah, normally we would do like a clubhouse afterwards, but since Nalek is starting on the Eskimo Libertarian, I'm just going to say everybody go see her on her Facebook page so you can get an idea of what's coming to Muddied Waters in a couple of weeks. I'm going to switch over to the other view. If you want to hang out and talk, cool. If not, and you just want to go watch Nalek, I understand. But I will talk to you soon either way. To everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in. As you can see right along the bottom there, visit anchor.fm/muddiedwaters to leave messages. And if you are so inclined, to donate, so that way we can continue to give the absolute best high quality entertainment that you have grown accustomed to over the last 4.5 years. Next week, starting on Tuesday, I'm going to have to remember this entire speech in like 2 weeks, because we're going to have a show on Sunday. Starting on Tuesday, tune in for an all-new episode of the Muddied Waters of Freedom, where Spike Cohen and I will parse through the week's events like the 2020 Wonder Boys that we are. Then next Wednesday, starting at roughly 8 o'clock Eastern, sure, we're going to say roughly 8 o'clock Eastern, Spike has a brand new My Fellow Americans. And then next Thursday at 8 o'clock Eastern, right here on Muddied Waters, you can find the next episode of the Writer's Block, where Brent DeRitter, my good buddy Brent DeRitter, is going to be joining me, and we are going to be talking about cell liberty. Sorry, Ari, I missed that part. I'm going to put that in the comments. I am artsci.com. I thought it was just artsci.com. I apologize. I am artsci.com. To all of you out there in podcast land, thank you for tuning in. We definitely appreciate it. Please like, please share, please comment, rate the podcast. If you are on YouTube, rate it. If you are on wherever else you are finding us, rate it, like it, share it, subscribe, comment. Show big tech that we will continue using their product as long as they do what we want. For your fun fact of the week, Mountain Dew was originally created as a mixer for whiskey. Don't know if you knew that. Until next week, I am Matt Wright, and you are perfect just the way you are. I will see you next week.
I am swinging from a 7-story window, throwing parties in a 10-by-7 cell. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help. Yeah, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'll try to use your body as a life raft, cause if there's room enough for one, there must be room enough for two. I'll sail the good ship you into the sunset, sipping on savory water till my liver turns blue. Sha-na-na, places broadcast in the evening news. I will be released. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help.